This is a bonus Not Sam Wrestling. I wouldn't necessarily call it an emergency Not Sam Wrestling. An emergency Not Sam Wrestling is really, it's more feelings based. A bonus Not Sam Wrestling is just when there's things to cover, and I feel as though they should be covered right now. So welcome, first and foremost, to an instant reaction edition of Not Sam Wrestling. The King and Queen of the Ring pay-per-view just went down. And I guess maybe this is an emergency podcast because I've got feelings. I want to, before we get to anything else, tell you right now that if you are sitting there with a void in your soul because there was no Uncle Howdy, because there was no Wyatt Six, because there was no him or her, there was no nothing. If that's in your soul right now, and it's even partially because of me and the fact that I've brought you on this QR code journey that I've found myself obsessed with, and one of the few things negative about this podcast is that when I get obsessed with something, sometimes I force you to get obsessed with it with me. If it is at all, even partially, my responsibility that you feel the way you do, I apologize. There was no Uncle Howdy appearance. Now, the reason we thought that there might be is because at one point, there were clues that pointed to the 25th of May. The 25th of May, of course, not only corresponding with the date that Taylor Rotunda, a.k.a. Bo Dallas, a.k.a. Uncle Howdy, was put on this planet, his birthday, but also, of course, the day that the King and Queen of the Ring Premium Live event was taking place. Now, the 525 thing hadn't come up recently, so there was at least a little bit of doubt, but I think we all kept hope alive. Like, when the White Rabbit clues were happening, and Bray was coming in Extreme Rules, which was referenced in today's QR code, by the way, that left nothing to the imagination. It was like the first QR code said the date, and then the next one was like, we'll be at the pay-per-view. You should watch it. We'll be there. So that didn't happen. On Mondays, Not Sam Wrestling, we'll go QR code hunting again. You may not want to believe me. I do have reason to believe that what we're looking at is June 17th. Monday, June 17th does appear to be my new Uncle Howdy is coming on this day. And I know we're getting Vera's coming, flashbacks. That's not happening. We are getting clues. This is all up to interpretation. We all only do what we can do. But we know that those behind Uncle Howdy are watching because those of us covering Uncle Howdy see our some of our compadres, some of our fellow Uncle Howdy coverers being referenced in the QR code. So there was a QR code in the entrance of the Intercontinental Triple Threat match at King and Queen of the Ring. And we'll go over exactly what was in that QR code. But upon my analysis, and I tweeted about it immediately, because I did start to feel bad. When I started to get a feeling that we're not seeing Uncle Howdy at King of the Ring, I was like, oh, I hope I didn't mislead anybody. So I immediately sent out a couple tweets about here's what I got from the new thing, and that's where June 17th comes up. So we'll see. But here is what we got at King and Queen of the Ring. Of course, on the countdown show, which was a 2-hour countdown show, I enjoyed it very much. You know, the panel did a great job. And then we got Jade Cargill and Bianca Belair in a match that was set up on SmackDown the night before, which was also in Jeddah, who, by the way, Jeddah is taking the cue from Leon, who took the cue from, I think, Puerto Rico, I would argue, that if we're doing international crowds, we are doing international crowds. Don't make a fool out of me. Let us know why we should keep doing pay-per-views here, because Jeddah was loud. Jeddah was cooking. I mean, they weren't Leon, but I don't think anybody. I mean, Leon was literally setting off noise meter alarms. But Jeddah was a great crowd singing along to Randy Orton's song. Everybody was into everything. It was awesome. Awesome to see. And we got a taste of that on SmackDown. Nia Jax beating Bianca Belair in the King of the Ring semifinal. And then backstage, we set up this match that we see at King of the Queen of the Ring on the Countdown show, which is Jade Cargill and Bianca Belair, I believe, defending the Women's Tag Team Championship against Candice LeRae and Indy Hartwell. Interesting because, number one, great title defense, great dominant title defense, just a good showcase. That's what it ends up being. This is a big international event, and we make we put Bianca and Jade up there together as a great showcase of this tag team that we have. And I would imagine that we will see more women's tag team title defenses on pay-per-views and premium live events than we've ever seen before with these two as tag champs. But it should also be noted, Candice LeRae and Indy Hartwell, officially the queens of international premium live event countdown shows. The last time we had a match on a countdown show, this is something we used to get regularly back when it was the kickoff show. We would have matches on pretty frequently. Now, seldom. Last time, earlier this year. It's happened twice this year. Last time was also an international premium live event. It was Elimination Chamber in Australia. Candice and Indy on that show too in the countdown match. So shout out to Candice and Indy. We opened the show with Liv Morgan versus Becky Lynch. And of course, the whole story here is that Liv is on a revenge tour, that Liv has never beaten Becky Lynch. Becky, of course, won the Women's World Championship in the Battle Royal after Rhea Ripley had to announce that she was injured. However, again, going back to the countdown show, we had some storytelling dust drifted upon us when Liv Morgan was being interviewed and Dominic Mysterio walked right up to her and we got all the tension. They were staring each other down. You know, Dominic Mysterio with all his machismo, all his masculinity, all of his Latino heat, staring down the potential future women's world champion. And she says, "What are you doing here?" And I went, "Oh my God, the scandal. Megan Morant is calling me on the phone. Oh my God, Sam, are you watching this? Are you watching this?" I said, "Yes, Megan, hush." And Dominic Mysterio says, "I'm here. I flew all the way across the globe to make sure that you don't take mommy's championship." And you go, oh, and they stare at each other. And then Dominic walks off, and it's the only thing, as confident as we've seen Liv Morgan, this is the only thing that leaves her even slightly shaken, yet not stirred. And we get to the match, and it's back and forth, and it's all good, and Becky has Liv Morgan in the disarmor. And Dominic Mysterio shows up at ringside. And Becky goes, "What are you doing here?" And she lets her finish her off. "What are you doing here?" And Dominic slides a chair in the ring towards Becky, and she goes, "What?" And then distracts the referee, you know, as if to put up the appearance. No, I'm just here to give you a chair. Now you can hit Liv Morgan with this chair while I distract the referee. Except Becky is so confused by all this. Liv Morgan takes advantage, smashes her face into the chair, kicks it out of the ring, and then boom, 1, 2, 3. Liv Morgan is our women's world champion. Definitely file this under you gotta let them cook, because there were those that were accusing Becky Lynch of being a grand politicker. There were those that were annoyed that Becky Lynch was champion once more, that whenever anything happens, they just put the title on Becky Lynch when she won that Battle Royal. But I think that the idea was that we're telling stories here. And instead of just going, "Oh, okay, now Liv Morgan is the champion," like, we got to Liv Morgan being the champion. She had to actually conquer a champion, and she did so with all this Dominic Mysterio chicanery. Of course, we've been chronicling Dominic Mysterio and Liv's paths seemingly crossing in the background of different things going on Monday Night Raw. This is only going to amplify things further. Of course, Dominic Mysterio is looking distraught, like he's made a huge mistake. Becky Lynch, she's very, very mad at Dominic. She doesn't understand what happened. And Becky on the show said that she had a rematch clause. Now, she must be a big star because I don't know anybody that gets rematch clauses anymore, but Becky Lynch has a rematch clause, and she said she's going over to Adam Pearce, which makes me feel like, I don't know, maybe we're not going to wait until Clash at the Castle. Maybe we're going to get a Becky Lynch, Liv Morgan match on Monday Night Raw. Where do I think it's all going? I've got to believe it's going to a massive turn. I don't know how long Rhea Ripley is out for. The fantasy match that you've got is Liv Morgan versus Rhea Ripley at SummerSlam. All roads lead to SummerSlam. And we learned that this week by the fact that at least in 2026, the plan is by 2026, that SummerSlam will be a 2-night show, at least for that year, because the announcement was made that SummerSlam is going to be in Minneapolis for 2 nights in 2026. With that said, the winners of the King and Queen of the Ring, right around the same time, it was announced that they would get their title shots at SummerSlam. This is key because we've got 2 pay-per-views before SummerSlam. We've got Clash at the Castle and we've got Money in the Bank. But SummerSlam is that final destination. SummerSlam is that WrestleMania of warm weather is what they're calling it. So I think that when you're building that SummerSlam card, that you want to get to the point where it's rivaling WrestleMania, the idea of Liv Morgan versus Rhea Ripley is the quintessential thing, if Rhea is healthy. Now, I kind of wonder, like, how long can you go with this Dominic Liv thing? How long can you go with this Judgment Day thing? Like, can you, without making it official, is the idea that maybe Dominic turns once Rhea gets back? Maybe Dominic doesn't turn until SummerSlam. That's 2 months. It's a long time. I don't know if we can wait a full 2 months, but I kind of see Liv Morgan beating Rhea Ripley at first, so that the title reign is not short, and then Rhea eventually getting her comeuppance, but we'll see. We got to the Intercontinental triple threat match. Sami Zayn, Big Bronson Reed, and Chad Gable. And of course, I think, so there are 2 things. There are 2 stories of this match. One story, of course, being the very real emotion on Sami Zayn. And the fact that, Sami Zayn got to be close to a culture, his home culture and everything, and to have a match like this and a win like this, you could see it all over his face. He felt amazing. It seemed like he felt amazing about it. Planting the haluva kick on Big Bronson Reed. But what was going on the outside of the ring was, so Maxine Dupree flies all the way across the planet, just like Dominic Mysterio did. Except for Maxine, she gets to walk out on stage only to get sent right back. She's got a gold bodysuit with gloves. She's got the whole deal. She makes it 2 feet out on stage, and then Chad Gable sends her right to the back. Chad Gable gets to the opportunity in the match where he can take advantage of having Otis at ringside. Otis is not able to execute. He's got to slap Otis in the face. Eventually, Otis is able to execute, but Sami Zayn gets out of the way because Otis hesitated, and he lays out Chad Gable by mistake. Now, this, to me, is something that we're going to see evolve. I would imagine your Clash at the Castle match is going to be Chad Gable versus Sami Zayn, one-on-one. I would think. I wouldn't think we're going to get to the big Otis Gable blow up yet. To me, Chad Gable and Otis blowing up can be huge for Otis. There's something about Chad Gable and the way he portrays this horrible person of a coach, the way he insults, because there's nobody more lovable than Otis and Maxine Dupree. Tozawa's right up there too, to tell you the truth. But people love these superstars. And so the idea of somebody like Chad Gable insulting them, degrading them, humiliating them, slapping them, especially when you see a big guy getting slapped by a smaller guy and not doing anything about it. It does something especially when it's a big lovable guy like Otis is. I think that I, especially watching King and Queen of the Ring, got flashbacks to Otis and Mandy. Many of you remember Otis and Mandy were together. Dolph Ziggler was getting involved. It was just, I say that not that this is romantic, but because you wanted Otis to win. Because building up to, that would have been WrestleMania 36, the pandemic WrestleMania, building up to that WrestleMania, Otis was all of us. Otis was every wrestling fan that never got the hottest girl in school. They weren't there for us. We were at home watching wrestling while these jocks were out there convincing the hottest girls in school to go to the hopscotch, whatever it's called, hopscotch, the sock hop with them. They weren't going to the sock hop with us because we were watching Raw and SmackDown and Impact. There was no AEW yet. So now we see this play out and it's like, yeah, that's us. We are Otis. We want Otis to win. And when Otis won Mandy over, it was a great moment. But had it happened in a stadium, they would have erupted. The story of WrestleMania 36 would have been Drew McIntyre wins the title and Otis wins Mandy Rose. And it would have been huge for both of them. Both of them victims of the pandemic. There were much worse victims of the pandemic, but they were still victims. Now, I feel as though we are finally getting back to a place where we're building up such good sentiment behind Otis. Just the wholesome desire to see that guy win is deep within so many WWE fans. So the idea that he finally gets to go and go one-on-one with Chad Gable and beat Chad Gable, and Otis gets his moment to beat Chad Gable, to me, that's something you put in a stadium in Cleveland. To me, it's got to be SummerSlam. On the way to SummerSlam, after Money in the Bank, he finally slaps Chad Gable back. The match gets made, and he gets his victory. I'm looking at SummerSlam as Otis versus Gable, LA Knight versus Logan Paul, and, well, some other matches that we'll discuss right now. For instance, Nia Jax versus Bayley, because Nia Jax is officially the queen of the ring, and I think in short order. I think it's within the last 2-3 weeks. There are a lot of people who are starting to come around on Nia Jax. I think Nia Jax has been putting in the work to show people that she's a great villain. Nia Jax is a great professional wrestling villain. And the things that she can do in the ring are phenomenal for the character that she's portraying. It's awesome. You believe it. That moment where Lyra Valkyria, who we've watched, and whether you know who she is or not, whether you watched her in NXT, whether you're the biggest fan or whatever, we have effectively seen Lyra Valkyria, someone that we don't know much about, but we know that she wins matches. We know that apparently she's a bigger deal than we thought she would be, because she's made it all the way to the Queen of the Ring finals, beating, Zoe Stark and beating Io Sky and, the whole thing. So I thought she was going to win the tournament until Triple H announced that the winner of the tournament would get a shot at the title at SummerSlam, because I just felt like, you could have her, turn heel, and if Becky Lynch was still the champion, do Becky versus Lyra, or, which I still, by the way, think that before long, she should just turn heel and you do Becky versus Lyra. Although I don't know if that'll be great for her, because Becky would beat her. So, well, whatever. That's neither here nor there. We could talk about that on Monday, maybe. But when they were in the corner together and she's trying to superbomb Nia Jax off the ropes, and Nia knows exactly, just the positioning of that. Who saw that coming? Where it just smacked her down. She's now laying, and Nia Jax with the speed, boom, dropping her version of the bonsai drop, the Annihilator, onto Lyra Valkyria and getting the pin. 1, 2, 3. There was no sort of, technically there was no, I had to do this. It was Nia Jax is the queen of the ring. And I think that it's a pretty genius thing we're seeing, because we saw Piper Niven attack Bayley on SmackDown. And I think the idea is that going into Clash at the Castle, Piper Niven is the first monster for Bayley to conquer. But between now and SummerSlam, Nia Jax just tears through everybody. Nia Jax embraced being the queen. She put the crown on her head. For a second, I was worried. For a second, I was concerned. Triple H is hugging her and whispering something into her ear. And of course, I'm sure that was an emotional moment because Nia Jax at one point was released from her contract, sent home by WWE, and she's one of the people that Triple H brought back. And it's been very successful. So Triple H whispered something to her. You could see it all over her face. This was very much a culmination of things. She was feeling emotional. And when Kayla Braxton goes to interview her, she snaps right back into it. And she grabs Kayla, and the crowd picks up on it. They're booing her. And she goes, you don't have to be happy for me because I'm happy for me. I go, this is great. She's actually wearing the crown. She's embracing being the queen. And, you know, I'm not so sure. We're going to watch this thing build. But I think I'm not ready to tell you that the idea is for Nia Jax to spend the next 2 months just destroying people so that Bayley can finally conquer her. Because we may get to SummerSlam and realize that Nia Jax destroying people is good for business. We've got something here. And maybe Nia Jax is the champion at SummerSlam. I don't know for sure. What I do know for sure is, regardless of how it happened, regardless of shoulders or a screwy finish, I want Gunther to be the world heavyweight champion after SummerSlam. I want Gunther to go to SummerSlam, and I want Gunther to win the world heavyweight title, and I want Gunther to hold the world heavyweight title for a very long time. Who knows? Roman Reigns didn't beat Hogan's record. What if Gunther beats Hogan's record? I want Gunther to walk into Bash in Berlin as the world heavyweight champion. I want Gunther to walk into September and October and November. I want Gunther to walk into WrestleMania 41 as the world heavyweight champion. King of the Ring finals. Gunther versus Randy Orton. And it's really interesting because when Triple H says the winner of the King of the Ring gets to face the champion on their brand at SummerSlam, I think that the world heavyweight title, while I wouldn't be surprised if it stayed on Damian Priest, I don't think that that's a guarantee. I think that the undisputed championship, the WWE championship that's on Cody Rhodes, that's far more of a guarantee that it stays on Cody. So I think that everybody is going, okay, we're going into Randy versus Cody at SummerSlam. That's your money match. Randy Orton's going to win. And I kind of like the turn that WWE has taken, where I feel like 6 months ago, maybe even more recently, they were at this place where there was a lot of fan service going on in a very good way. We were getting what we wanted, maybe even going right up to WrestleMania, where it's like, it feels like this should be happening, so that is what's going to happen. We made you excited about this, so this is exactly what you'll get. Now, it feels like we're going to tease a match, but we're not going to give it to you. You're going to think we're going to give it to you, but we're going to give you something else. Eventually, we will give you that match. This is not a bait and switch. We'll give it to you, just not now. And you saw that in this tournament. You saw that when Ilya Dragunov is literally saying, Gunther, you remember, we had a match. I beat you. As soon as Ilya Dragunov got drafted, people were saying, I'm here for Ilya versus Gunther. That's what I want to see. And what happens? Jey Uso beats Ilya. And you go, whoa, we're not getting Ilya versus Gunther. And then there was this thought that maybe Jey Uso beats Gunther to go on to the finals. Gunther beats Jey. We're not getting that bloodline match. We're not getting Jey Uso versus Tama Tonga. So then you get to the finals, and you announce that it's connected to the SummerSlam main event. You go, oh, so we're getting Randy versus Cody. That's your money match. No. Now, we may still get Randy versus Cody, but I almost feel like we shouldn't. Because if we get Randy versus Cody anyway, because it is the money match, and I do want to see Randy versus Cody, but just for the principle of it was the prize for the King of the Ring. If Randy Orton gets it anyway, it's almost like, doesn't that make it feel like unfair to Gunther? Now, there is an unfair to Gunther part of this because, and it bums me out because the Randy Orton Gunther match was awesome. It was a fantasy match that lived up to the hype. I thought it was great. I love the way Gunther wrestles because Gunther adapts to everyone that he's wrestling. Gunther fights in these matches where the people that he's facing get a ton of offense in. Gunther takes a lot of punishment. Gunther does a lot of selling. Gunther takes it all. But eventually, he figures out one way to win, right? It's like he'll work on the leg, and then his opponent will mount a huge comeback, and then he'll keep working on the leg. And then his opponent will hit the finish, and he'll kick out and work on the leg some more. And then find any little thing, whether it's Jey Uso, hitting his finish, and then Gunther finding the limb so he can choke him out. Whether it's Randy Orton having the bum leg, and Gunther has one opportunity to just roll him up. It's almost like, I guess that powerbomb is Gunther's finish, but he doesn't really have a finish. It's just however I can get the match done, and it makes Gunther unique, but it also makes Gunther so believable. The shame of it all was after the 2 RKOs, after the table spots, after everything, these guys have put it all out there and had a great match. The finish gets messed up. Randy Orton hits the RKO, but he can't get the leverage that he needs on the pin. He can't put all of his weight on Gunther because he's got one leg up in the air because his leg is still damaged. Gunther's able to not only kick out, but roll him over for a 3 count, but there was no angle because whether it was straight on. I mean, when you're watching it at first, the first time out, there's no way you would miss it. Randy Orton's shoulders weren't anywhere near the mat. And then they go to the replay and they try to hit it from the other angle, but you can see right under Gunther, and it goes all the way through. You can see Randy Orton's shoulders aren't anywhere near even from that angle. So it was addressed. Triple H did an interview exclusively for the web where he basically said that Gunther didn't have Randy's shoulders pinned to the mat, and that Triple H did not notice it while he was out there, but he saw the coverage of it later. He said the referee's decision is final, that Gunther is absolutely your king of the ring. However, he believes that the fans want to see it get run back. He believes that he wants to see it get run back, and he believes that both Gunther and Randy Orton are going to want to run this back. So I would imagine, I don't think the crown will be on the line. It's a little cheesy. It could be, but, I don't think the SummerSlam main event will be on the line. But I do think that it Clash at the Castle, because they're on 2 separate brands, so it'd be tough to just do it on TV. I mean, you could. It wouldn't be tough. You just have Randy Orton fly to Raw and do it. But I wouldn't be shocked if it becomes a Clash at the Castle match. And it just kind of puts a period on it, because that's what Triple H said. It would just be about removing the asterisk. That right now, it's like there's an asterisk because Randy Orton's shoulders weren't pinned, and we would have a rematch just to remove the asterisk, which I think is the way to handle it, right? I like it. And I hope that it happens, and I think Clash at the Castle would be a good spot for it. At the same time, we get the announcement of the World Championship match, which is Drew McIntyre versus Damian Priest. Triple H made the announcement on the show that Drew is officially cleared, and it's going to be Drew McIntyre versus Damian Priest. Now, this goes back into, I see, this is where we could be going, and then we're not going there, at least right now. So I think everybody sees that, and there are a lot of folks, I was getting it on my Twitter, that see that and go, well, yeah, Drew can beat Damian Priest, and then you can get Gunther and Drew for the championship at SummerSlam. Number one, I want Gunther to win, and number two, I don't want to play hot potato with the title. Number three, I don't think Drew versus Gunther is your SummerSlam match. It could be. Drew versus Gunther for the world title sounds amazing. I don't think that's your SummerSlam match. I think your SummerSlam match is Drew and Punk. If Punk is ready to go, I think Drew McIntyre versus CM Punk is your match. I think Gunther versus Damian Priest is that SummerSlam match. And the reason that I think that is because it's like you can build it up as the ultimate test for Damian Priest. And Damian Priest does not pass that test. Gunther gets the title because I feel like if the main event to Bash in Berlin, wait till you hear this, world title is on the line. And it's Gunther versus CM Punk. Come on. Who doesn't want to see Gunther versus CM Punk for the world title? Then you can have a triple threat with Drew. You can do Gunther versus Punk. You can do Drew versus Gunther. You could do Drew versus Punk. You could do Gunther versus Drew versus Punk. There's a lot there. So I don't see Drew winning. I could see CM Punk screwing Drew McIntyre out of the title in Glasgow. But even more so, I see it building towards Drew versus Punk is the SummerSlam match that I want to see. Now, if Punk's not healthy, then maybe you can do Drew versus Gunther and have Drew win the title. But I'd much rather have Damian Priest run that title from WrestleMania to SummerSlam. Have a banger with Gunther. Go over without getting over. And have Gunther walk out as the World Heavyweight Champion. And the final match at the King and Queen of the Ring Premium Live event was Cody versus Logan Paul. Cody Rhodes defending the title. Logan Paul not, obviously. Lots of fun and games with the brass knuckles. Of course, we had a pair of brass knuckles given to Michael Cole. We had a pair of brass knuckles found on Logan Paul's person. We had brass knuckles from a guy at ringside. I mean, Logan Paul has plenty of pairs of brass knuckles. But I thought that, first of all, punching Cody Rhodes in the spleen with brass knuckles is wildly dastardly. It was really unkind. I thought that the drone shot of Logan Paul standing on that rope and then splashing him, taking the swig of Prime, spitting it out, and Logan Paul spitting out that Logan Paul Prime as if it truly is the Logan Paul Levesque era. It was that Logan Paul Triple H crossover. And then boom, hitting Cody. It was a beautifully shot, beautifully executed move. But bro, Michael Cole yelling at Logan Paul and straight up pointing at the man and calling him a loser was so unhinged that the play-by-play voice of the WWE, the GOAT, Michael Cole, is calling the challenger in the WWE Championship match a loser to his face? This is unprecedented. We are going into rocky waters. And if I'm not careful, I'm Michael Cole, I'm going to end up putting that singlet back on, walking into SummerSlam, and having the singlet sponsored by Prime in a match with Logan Paul. I thought I wanted to see LA Knight versus Logan Paul. No way. Michael Cole versus Logan Paul at SummerSlam, sign me up. And then if Michael Cole wins, of course, you have the GOAT undefeated at both WrestleMania and SummerSlam. But, I mean, unhinged, Cole. What are you doing? This guy, he's found his voice, and now he's just, I don't know, man. Well, I don't know. I think Nick Aldis needs to look into disciplining Michael Cole, because you can't just have, or no, not Nick Aldis. He's on Raw now. Adam Pearce needs to look into disciplining Michael Cole, because you can't just have guys. You can't have your play-by-play man just going off the handle like that. Come on. So yeah, it was definitely entertaining and a great vehicle for distraction when Cody comes through with the tope suicida after the Michael Cole distraction. Of course, Logan Paul got his hands back on those brass knuckles. Referee goes down, low blow to Cody Rhodes. We get some interference from Ibrahim, who will not allow Logan Paul to use those brass knuckles. And then boom, Cody is able to finish 1, 2, 3. Cody is still your champion. Not a huge surprise, but a great match. Logan Paul continues to impress and really, for the most part, only have very good matches. And it's interesting because you can kind of see where Logan Paul is headed next. I would imagine, I don't know, unless he's going to do something I don't think he's going to be in Glasgow or Toronto. He might be. Who knows? But I would think LA Knight is where he goes for SummerSlam, unless it's Michael Cole. But Cody Rhodes, will he go to AJ Styles next? Because AJ Styles is asking for that rematch. Was Logan Paul a bump in the road? And then we're going to see another Cody versus AJ match in Glasgow. Will it go back to my prediction of Nick Aldis? Don't know. Could go a lot of different ways. We will talk about that Monday morning, first thing on episode 501 of Notsam Wrestling, where we will have coverage of everything that's happened since King and Queen of the Ring, as well as a little bit more in-depth analysis on some of the scenarios that we have set up now. QR code analysis, of course. Breakdown of AEW Double or Nothing will be on the show. And don't forget, if you are going to SummerSlam, and it seems like we're going to have a hell of a SummerSlam, make sure you get there a day early. Thursday night, 7:30 p.m. at Hilarities in Cleveland. We will be doing a live Notsam Wrestling podcast. Very appreciative of all the people who've already bought tickets. If you haven't yet, make sure you get them right now. You can go to notsam.com. There's a tickets link right up there. Appreciate you guys hanging out. Another fun Saturday afternoon pay-per-view. We will see you on Monday for 501.